All right, what's up, Survivor Nation, and welcome to the Dome Patrol United Survivor Podcast, live stream edition on Facebook and YouTube. I'm your host, Jeff. I'm joined by Scott and Jason. Jason, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing all right. No number. I drank enough Monday night, so
Yeah, for those of you who watched the Dome Patrol United podcast, Saints Throwback 2006 edition, you got a treat. Uh, it was one of the classic high number episodes. But we're all
yeah.
calmer and more sober toward the end of the week talking about Survivor. Scott, welcome to the show. Speaking of being calm and sober, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Sober for now.
Yeah.
Plan on drinking shortly.
Oh, okay. One of those nights.
Yes.
Thursday. Oh, so is anybody
Yes.
working tomorrow?
I
I'm
don't
not.
think it's. I don't think it's a company holiday, but I don't think I'll be working.
Originally we didn't get off, but because of the tax deadline being extended, they gave us off on Good Friday. So usually we only get Good Friday if it's after April 15th.
Mm.
So, I mean,
You're gonna be
a lot
frying
of good.
some shrimp.
A lot of good it's gonna do me. Like, where the fuck am I gonna go tomorrow?
You're gonna drink.
Uh,
All right. Well,
that's
all
every day.
right. Well, all right, then I can't help you. Well, any more than Jeff could help. Adam and the tribal council. We'll get to that, which, this was one of the best tribal councils in a long time. But first, let's talk about the edge of extinction. Wendell got there. They had to. Did it feel a little lazy from the producer side? Like, yeah, let's just hide it where we hid it last year.
But I was thinking,
Well,
like, how, and I guess maybe because they're, as a returning player, they kind of dust up on their history, but like, how would they have even remembered that? Like, I've watched every season for a long time. I would have had no
I know.
recollection of, oh yeah, that's where it was. Now, obviously, I'm not playing the game. It's different.
see, when you weren't looking, the producer said, "Hey, do you remember that episode?"
They probably looked for like 7 hours and were like, "Oh, this is stupid, guys." And then finally, they had to start giving. You know, like you got to give hints a little bit, like,
Look over here. Look over here.
"Caw-caw!
Caca, caca.
Hey, you guys!"
Up here, up here, up here.
That's exactly what I think happened.
Probably.
And it's nice that they shared the reward with everybody on the
Yeah,
island
I
there.
don't know how smart that was. I mean, it was nice, I guess, of her to do it, but I mean, couldn't she have used those fire tokens for an advantage in the next?
She must have been that hungry.
Well, but also, I mean,
Yes.
maybe she realized that she's probably not going to beat, she's not going to win that challenge regardless. And
Then why is she there? Why don't she pull a Sandra?
because you don't want to quit.
She's not a quitter, Jeff.
Right.
She's not a
Right.
quitter like Sandra.
But
She's too busy doing yoga on the beach in the morning.
something like that is interesting. Whoever gets back in the game. So far, you still got Tyson back in, who was on Extinction, and somebody else is going to get back in, and everybody's on the jury. Is that, or that's part of the reason that some people complain about Extinction Island and what happened the last time. The dude came back and he won because he made friends with everybody there. Because everybody's on the jury, maybe that's why she wants to share, kind of build camaraderie there, because whoever gets back in the game, you could potentially have all these votes thrown at that person. Even though
that's a good thought.
I don't necessarily like it. I didn't like it when it happened last time and that guy won, but it's just something to think about.
I mean, it's a strategy for sure. I didn't even, it's one I didn't even think of that. Interesting.
All right. What do you think? Fallout from last week's vote. Whenever they came back, and Nick was pretty miffed, but ready to go scorched earth. Michelle. Okay, you asked me last week why I don't like Michelle.
Mhm.
You get it yet? Just her
No.
general, the way she talks, just her tone, everything just aggravates. She's just the way she talks, all like, I don't, it's just,
That's how I felt about Sandra.
yeah, but at least Sandra didn't,
I just didn't like her.
yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I get why you wouldn't like Sandra. I mean, she is arrogant and she thinks her shit doesn't stink, and maybe you might think undeservedly so, but then you do have to admit the fact that she's the only person to win this game twice, so you could see why she likes to say the queen stays the queen until somebody
Yeah.
unseats her. She's
I
gonna
don't
ride
mind
that.
Michelle. I don't mind Michelle personally.
Yeah.
I'm not pulling for her. You know, I didn't think she I didn't think she should have won her season, and I'm just not pulling. There's plenty of other people I would rather see win.
Okay.
I'll put it that way.
I agree. Yeah, like all of them, but if I had to choose.
Right. I did slip that in there
Yeah.
this week.
You know, I guess, she's kind of on the outside looking in. It seems like her, Adam, and Nick were kind of on the outside of everybody else. I don't know. Because they weren't, well, at least her and Nick, because they weren't included in that decision. Which doesn't really, I guess, bode well for her. Or Nick. I mean, Nick got quite a few votes.
Yeah, I
past
think
tribal
at this
council.
point, unless it's one of those like just like how Denise was going to be voted out last week, and this week she wasn't even on anybody's
Mentioned.
radar. That's
Yeah.
the only way that Nick's going to be saved is if they have that short attention span and they're like now that it's kind of like if you've got three people, we got to chip it down to two or one, before we move on to the next, and you just kind of keep chipping away at these blocks so that you keep your majority. So like Nick may not be a threat because he doesn't have anybody working for him. So it is, I think, conceivable that he survived, and they're now going to go to. I'm trying to think. I don't know though because Tony's plan is starting to gain traction. The like he put high profile. So it last week, as much as I hated it, this week I was bought in with the way because I think the difference was like whatever he called them last week, I didn't like that. I was thinking of it differently. Whereas this week, like he said, high profile players. Right. So they're not the big dogs, the big lions. They're just the higher profile players. Got it.
He did say lions and hyenas this week, I
Yeah, I
think.
did like that actually. Because he's the Tiger King.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh boy.
Lord.
All right. So then your girl gives her reward to Nick.
First of all, an actual reward challenge. When's the last time we saw one of those?
When last week?
I mean, I'm sure they had the.
It was
feast.
mixed in with the immunity challenge.
Yeah,
It wasn't
and-
two separate. This is the first time they've done two separate challenges. this
or at
season.
least that they've showed two separate challenges. I think they've done them, but I guess for time, it's almost like, man, I really wish every episode this season was 2 hours instead of one. I mean, I'd be all for it. I mean, it's like I can't get enough.
I agree.
But
Because like when they divided into teams and they were doing it like playground style where you get a captain and they pick, they didn't show any of that.
well,
All of a sudden it was just like these are the teams.
well, they've long since stopped showing any of that. I think they used to way back when, but now they just say, oh, here's the teams. It was done a schoolyard pick 'em. Here's the captain. Here's the captain. It was a pretty close challenge, which was exciting, but it really was even if Sarah, had good intentions of doing that. I mean, it's like we saw the reaction. Like everybody isn't going to care. It's perception. It's just perception that it's a game move.
It kind of put a target on her back. But then when her name got thrown out, it quickly she was like, "Oh, you're not going to say my name. That's the death of you," kind of thing. So I mean, even though people might have thought what they thought, when it came down and her name got thrown out, they had her back.
For now. But it's still, it's still something, that can be used later in the future. It's just for a player who's as good as she is, to kind of make that mistake. I mean, I could say that I'm not starving out on an island for 20-something days. I mean, who knows what it does to your mental state, but it just didn't seem like a good move at all. Really didn't. And then Nick's like, yeah, I don't care about her. He'll vote her off the next second.
Oh yeah. It was funny. My wife was watching it, and she doesn't watch Survivor, and she's just having her sitting there. And when she did that, she's like, "I don't understand why everybody's getting upset. Like, it's not like she gave them immunity or anything. Like, you gotta understand these people are out on an island with nothing to do. They're fucking crazy. Like, they have nothing else to do but to sit there and try to figure out why the hidden meaning behind her doing that. Like, that's all they have to do is just sit there and think.
That is a huge. I mean, just like commodity, right? the favor, the food, the information, the knowledge. Like that's currency in Survivor. So you do somebody a favor like that, then historically speaking, that's a gesture. Sometimes it's a sign of an alliance, like, hey, I'm going to give it to my friend over here, or I'm trying to build a bridge, which is absolutely right that they thought that. I do believe Sarah that she did it as a human, because I believe that's the kind of person Sarah is. She let her heart get in the way. uh, but did it put a target on her back? Maybe for a little while, but again, like Tyson said, he's adapting to the game. He's understanding this is not you get your team and you block your vote. It's confusion is king. All right. And I love that Tyson just went out and stirred the shit up. He's got it. He figured it out.
Confusion was definitely king. I mean, just before they even went to the vote, I think Jeremy was hilarious because every time they come up with a new name, he's like, "Wait, what?" Like he was freaking out. He's like, "What are y'all talking about? What's going on?" Like he's just sitting there chilling, and people keep walking up to him with like 4 or 5 different names, and he's like freaking out every time.
And then Ben's paranoia. He starts to go to people that never even said anything. He's, I heard you said. And so Ben's only creating his own shit. I mean, Tyson, like one thing he did, and it just set fire to the whole camp, and it was amazing to watch. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was
like
great.
At first, they were just talking 2 names at first, and then it just went, like they said, then chaos erupted, and it was just crazy.
I don't understand
all the names that were getting thrown out.
Like how. This is the part I don't understand. Is if 8 of us are in a group.
Yeah,
there he goes. Yeah, he took his toy back, didn't he?
He did. Can y'all go?
You want me to mute you? You want me to mute you while you take care of this business?
Yeah.
I thought.
There he goes. All right. So if 8 people are in a block, like literally standing in a circle talking and saying, we're going to vote out Nick tonight, or we're Adam, whatever we're going to do. I don't understand how you can walk away from that and let one person on the outside of that majority come in and cause that chaos.
It is kind of crazy because they are still at the point where they can still do the giant block and kind of pick people off, even though, look, eventually they're going to have to turn on each other. That happens. But for now, survive and advance. It seems like an easy decision to just pick off Michelle or pick off Nick.
But I guess if you were in that 8-person block and then you get a whisper that another name came out, your paranoia says, am I not in on the real plan? So you still go to talk to the person you trust most, who talks to the person they trust most, who talks to the person they trust most, and it just keeps going around and around and around. And next thing you know, you got 18 names being thrown out, and there's only 12 contestants.
Right. I mean,
wait a minute, didn't we already vote out Rob?
And that's the thing too. Like when you hear your name, you're like, "Oh shit!" Then you got to scramble and try to deflect, just toss out a name. Like at some point, somebody tossed out Tyson's name. Like, hey, what about Tyson? Everybody's name gets just tossed out. It does make for good television. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, just tribal council. It even got crazier because everybody's whispering. People are standing up and walking around, and I'm like, "What the hell?"
I did think it was kind of hilarious too. I mean, I think. In more recent seasons, it's become more commonplace to have all these conversations like this at Tribal. I mean, I remember when this was a new thing a few years ago, and now all of a sudden it's commonplace, but everybody is whispering and talking to each other. Meanwhile, Ben and Adam are just going at each other, and everybody else is kind of ignoring them, just talking stuff. It was awesome.
It's kind of like they were kind of listening to Adam and what he was saying in the background, and I don't know if the vote was going in his direction, but he definitely did not help his case by arguing back and forth with Ben like that.
No,
made him look.
Well, so if you're Adam and clearly he knew what he was gonna do, but at the same time, he made that was his bold play, was to pick a fight with Ben to maybe try to paint a target on Ben's back, but you've got to realize while you're fighting with Ben or arguing with Ben, everybody's talking. No one's even paying attention to what you are saying or doing. You're now a distraction for them to essentially plot to vote you out, and you're not picking up on that. I think Adam, something happened to where in the last 2 or 3 weeks he completely lost control of his own game. He was playing from the back or something. He was playing desperate.
he was trying to play incredibly hard, trying to make a lot of moves, and it just kind of backfired on him. I mean, when he
Too
went to
hard, too
talk to
fast.
Ben, and he mentioned, yeah, they're throwing out names, and Ben's like, who? And he could never answer him. He got caught in a
Because
lie.
he was the one who said it.
Right. He got caught in a lie.
Right.
Yep.
Which was not the first time. So, I mean, I get, like, yeah, Adam did need to go. It was the right move, but not because he's a threat, but because he's just apparently he's playing a solo game.
Well,
No.
and he's kind of gone back and forth. You can't really trust him.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the big thing. You can't trust him because he's
Well, none of the high profile players could trust him
Right.
because he wasn't
None
in
of the
with them.
Lions.
Right. I mean, again, you think about it, they had their pick. It was Nick, Michelle, or Adam. They had their pick. It didn't matter which one they voted out. As long as it was one of those three, they were happy. Tyson's found his way into the high profile player bracket, which I love. But yeah, right, Jason. The question is, are they going to eat through these three before they start picking each other apart, or is it going to be your classic save one to
swing.
to swing a majority, right? And so I would hope if they do that, Nick is the one that they save.
But it'd be interesting if one of them gets immunity.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, is Denise
Or-
a high profile? Is Denise in Tony's club? I don't.
I mean,
think
they're
she is.
not no. I mean, who is it? It's Tony and it's Jeremy, and it's Tyson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are kind of the three
Tony,
quote
Jeremy.
unquote high profile left.
There's another one. I think Sarah, because Tony and Sarah have a side alliance.
Right.
Sarah, plain and tall.
I mean, maybe I don't know. Kim. I mean, I don't know.
It's
Kim was
funny
dominant in her
that
season,
thall
but it doesn't feel like
I,
she's not very
I think, all
outspoken.
right, so if the right now the bigger bubble includes Kim and Denise and Sarah. If Tony's in that middle,
Sophie,
and,
right,
and
Tony.
Sophie, Sarah, Tophie.
Sophie.
if Tony and Sophie form an alliance like that, Sophie.
Sophie.
But yeah, so you could definitely see using Nick though to edge out your Sophie and Erin or whatever her name is, the one that won immunity. I can never remember her. She's so forgettable. Kim. Looks like Erin.
I mean, she only played once, but she did dominate her season. It was kind of a forgettable season. It wasn't a great season, but she had a good performance. It just wasn't a good season.
Yeah, but she's a challenge dominator.
She did win immunity this week.
Right.
Yeah, she did
but
win immunity
she's
this
not
week.
She's not a social threat to this game. She's a challenge beast.
Yeah, and I feel like she's not. She doesn't seem to be getting a winner's edit either. So I can't imagine her winning.
So if you're going by
It's kind of funny too.
you're looking at Tony, Tyson.
I mean, Jeremy's getting a lot of time too. I feel like at some point, whenever they do use somebody to flip and knock somebody out, like they may try to break up Sarah and Sophie, but I feel like they're gonna make a move first. I think Jeremy, because to me, Jeremy is probably he seems to be the one controlling that group, even though he doesn't want to appear to be controlling the group. He's controlling the group. So to me, that's the first one of the big ones that gets knocked out.
Is he controlling by letting Tony be his mouthpiece? Because it looked right. If on the outward appearances, it looks like Tony's controlling that group. But that's just because Tony's the one who's going to talk. But is Tony executing Jeremy's vision?
It seems like it so far, but
like
at some point,
dance my
Puppet master.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Because otherwise, they're going to go for Sarah and Sophie, but then Sophie have to realize at some point they got to flip it back the other way.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's going to be your first big. Like what's going to happen? It's either or. Because to me, it seems like Denise should go with the women.
See, and I hate that shit. I hate when it's divided by sex.
Well, I mean, I'm not. Hold on. I'm not. They just happen to be women, but in terms of like the lower profile players,
that's sexist of you, Jason.
Hey, Nick's in there with him.
Profile.
Nick's in there with him. Nick's in there with him.
Nick's kind of a woman.
Oh, come on, guy.
With his blazer.
Oh my God.
Nick's fine.
It was kind of funny at Tribal when they were all like arguing and stuff, and Rob's like, somebody's going to need therapy on Extinction Island.
well, I think at that point he knew it was going to be Adam too. And another thing was crazy. Like after all the whispering, and they sat down, and Adam kind of asked the group what's going on, and the silence.
Oh my God!
The silence was amazing.
Was that.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt bad for him at that point. Oh my God, that has to be hard. And so,
It's
How
of course, then he gets up. Now, this is the best part.
how awesome would it have been if that was an actual idol?
I was hoping it was. I was
I
hoping.
know.
I was too. When
Mhm.
Probst was like, "Do you think?" Well, he's like, "Well, I guess it's not." He's like, "Are you sure it's not?" Like,
I know. I was
oh,
like,
shit,
"Oh."
maybe it is. And he's like, "No, I'm just fucking with you. It's a part of the podium."
Well, but
Like
he
he was
even
just
let it
doing
on
that.
more. He's like, that would be
Yeah,
the first time. What an incredible thing. And you're like, he's
hiding in
building it
plain
up.
sight
He
the first
built it
time that
up.
he won. Yeah. And he was just fucking with him the whole time.
He
Adam's
was.
like, yeah, like getting his hopes up, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Nah, sorry.
You could tell Jeff was like, "Oh, this is great. I'm gonna."
I would have
Got
kept
it
pulling
done.
on that son of a bitch till I broke it off.
Yeah. He's like, "Yep, here's my idol. I'm playing it."
Here's my idol, motherfucker.
But
I'm
Jeff,
playing it.
it's a fleur de lis. It's a
Oh
Oh,
fleur
my
de lis.
god. He shouldn't have got it just for that reason.
Well, I think that's why he didn't. The next person who calls it a fleur de lis
Cause
will
Fleur,
work.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get it. I definitely think that's
He's
why.
like, how like Jeff's like, I'm sorry, a fleur de lis is not the immunity idol.
But a Fleur de Lis
Right.
is
It's like Wheel of Fortune.
like Wheel of Fortune. Oh shit.
You got to get it right.
Yep, you gotta pronounce it exactly correct,
That's right.
or it doesn't count.
I mean, who says fleur de lis?
Yankees.
Adam.
Jeez. That when he started calling it a fleur de lis, that's when I started rooting for him to go home.
Makes sense.
You don't mess with the fleur de lis.
Yeah.
Nope.
So and look,
Although
I'll-
it's honestly though, if you think about it, if the idol that Denise played had a, I mean Denise played had a fleur de lis, then it does stand to reason, especially if it's an identically look. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
think when they showed the clip,
it looked
like
pretty
it.
similar.
And if that,
Yeah.
the question is, if I guess that was always on the podium, but imagine if it had only appeared after she played it, right? But either way, it was believable that hey, why not? The Survivor gods can make anything an idol that they want. And I
Yeah.
thought that would have been. I think Adam had the best idea. He had a better idea than any of the producers had. That would have been genius.
Yeah.
I wonder if they gave like Probst the. I wonder if he has the pull to be like
Let it
to
be.
turn it into an idol. Yeah, just be like, yeah, it is an idol.
Well, Jeff Probst is the Survivor god to decide those things. So yeah, he could be like, I give this talisman power over you.
I wondered if somebody else went up and grabbed it other than Adam. Like if somebody he liked or something, he'd be like, yeah, that's an idol.
Jeff's choice.
Right.
It's Jeff's
If
choice.
Boston Rob did it, yep, that's your idol.
That's an idol.
I'm sorry, that's Boston Rob's idol. You can't touch it.
Yes.
Save for him.
So yeah, look, I definitely give him props for attempting it. I mean, I know it, maybe didn't look great, but I mean, at this point, I mean, you got to try, especially when you're
Yeah.
kind of on the outs. I give all the props to him for trying, and look, he's
All the
not,
props to him.
Adam's not one of the more, one of the power players per se, or one of the strong personalities, but he entertained me for 8 or 9 weeks.
And I do remember Adam's season a little bit, and I remember him playing, and I remember liking him. He's a likable player, and he's not somebody you root against. Although in this particular season, and the last couple,
He
of
seemed
weeks
like a
especially,
snake this season.
he slipped. He wasn't on his game. He wasn't like, you remember when Cochran came back and played his second time, like, because that's kind of like they're in that nerdery category, right? The nerds that play the game. Cochran's second time around was masterful. Isn't that the one he won? Cochran,
Yeah.
He lost the first one, but he won the next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wrote the book. He teaches a class on survival. I mean, Cochran's just like awesome. I'm
I
surprised.
thought
he
Johnny
was-
Cochran died.
Haha. Not quite. So, all right. So going back to the idol things that are idols that can be idols. So I do look back at the first Survivor all the way to this Survivor, and I love the evolution of the game that like there's now so many types of power. I do picture like there's this island and like you're finding these talismans and it's got magical powers or not and all this kind of
It's kind of like Lost.
yeah, I mean, it is, right? And so now we've got a new, like, they've never had a 50-50 power. And I
Now, would
like
you have
it.
spent the
It's
money
not-
on it?
I wouldn't have spent 4 tokens on that. Not a 50-50
Yeah.
shot. I wouldn't have spent all that.
Well,
I mean-
you say that, but what's to say that she would have even gotten another opportunity to buy anything?
That's true. This is true,
You know,
too.
I am surprised that they were going to charge for, because they probably could have. I mean, obviously they ended up getting it, but they could have done 2 or 3, and I think would have increased. Would have made sure. Well, she'll definitely buy it for that, and at least they'll get that many tokens. I was surprised that they actually charged for it because I didn't think they were going to get it. But when you can kind of get your hands on any kind of advantage you can.
That is true. Like you do it because you don't know, and whether it's all your tokens or not. 4 tokens is the most expensive thing I think that was ever sold on the island so far.
Yeah. And that was Michelle, right? That got that.
Yeah.
I hope it comes up. I hope it comes up as not safe, and she just gave it.
And Jeff can just go.
Now, if they sold it for 4 and they bought peanut butter for everybody with it, peanut butter's only 1 token. They still have 3 tokens.
Unless they bought 4 jars of peanut butter.
If I was Parvati, I'd buy 1 and save those 3 tokens for when the challenge comes.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to
She
tell
did that. That'd
everybody.
be smart.
She didn't have to tell everybody how much she sold it for. She just had to tell them that I'm going to get peanut butter for y'all.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week, huh? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe.
Now, do you think the fortune cookies were there on purpose to make sure that she bought it? I mean, come on. An empty purse fulfills the heart. They might as well have written, Michelle, buy the damn thing.
It would have been interesting if they put clues in there. Because they were checking those boxes, like they were checking the bottom of them and everything for idols or clues or something.
On a reward like that, no, there wouldn't be. But the merge, I was surprised there wasn't anything at the merge feast, because there's always something at the merge feast.
Maybe there was, and they just didn't find it.
I don't know. I think if there was something, they would have found it. I mean, these people are savvy enough.
The producers would have whispered.
Right.
Oh, what's up? All right. So, any final thoughts you got on it? I think we kind of went through the episode. We talked about everything. Are we sticking with? I'm still sticking with I don't even know who I'm riding. Who's my bet on? Is it Tyson?
Oh, that's you have your Extinction Island, and then you have your still in the game player.
I think I got Tyson in the game as my long shot, but my Rob is my real long shot. I guess all my picks are long shots, but yeah, I'm taking old school Rob and Tyson.
Yeah, I've still got Wendell on Extinction and Sophie in the game.
Yeah.
I've got Parvati on Extinction and Denis on in the game.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, we're definitely getting to that point where it's as crazy, as some of these episodes have been. Like at some point, the real kind of lines or pods as you dwindle it down have to be starting getting clear. We're about to see some blind sides coming up soon, I think. And I also, while this challenge was fine, the immunity challenge, I don't like having 2 kind of like quote unquote endurance challenges in a row. I don't want this just to turn into a bunch of endurance challenges. I like some challenges where you got to go through an obstacle, do a puzzle, do something. And I hope that's what the immunity challenge is next week.
All right, Scott.
No, I mean, we'll see what happens next week. I'm interested. I'm looking forward to it. It was a good episode this week. A lot of intrigue, a lot of whispers. So, I'm hooked. I look forward to it now, every week. So they
got him.
Probe still annoys me.
You gonna watch next year?
Yeah, I'll probably watch next year. Probe still aggravates me with the talking during the challenges.
For people like you, next year will be a letdown because it's going to be probably all new players. Yeah. Although sometimes they follow these up with like 18 newbies and 2 veterans, or sometimes they'll kind of do a little bit of that. Or
I mean, that's even assuming who knows when we get a next season because filming's delayed with everything going on.
True.
So Jeff
they can only have 10 people.
Right, panic on his face. I think next season will be.
I heard that the next season was in the can already. It's the following season, which they will have time for. I did hear that they had both seasons recorded.
No, I think they filmed this one before they filmed the last one. They filmed them back to back, but they filmed this one first, and then the last one back to back because they filmed them. Okay.
Rob and Sandra on the last one, and Sandra sat there and said, "I sat."
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
I don't know where you're getting your news, but it's clearly not the Survivor thread on Reddit.
I am wondering. Like, I think the next 2. I don't know that there's one already in the can. You may want to double check your.
I heard that both of them were in the can, unless it was the last one and this one in the can.
That's what I think happened. because they do tend to film 2 of them back to back, and then
Which
they
maybe
show them one in the fall,
spring,
one in
yeah.
the spring.
Yeah, they film them during the summer or something like that, during hurricane
Right.
season when it's the most dangerous.
Jason's got masters on the brain.
Let me ask you this real quick. Do you?
I definitely do.
So here's my final thought. So the last X number of years, it's been on the same islands. At this
Yeah,
point.
was it
settled in.
Fiji?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the Pacific or a little chain, an archipelago or something over there. But do you miss the days when they would change locations? Remember, it used to be Marquesas, and then it was China, and then they had Africa, Australia,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. I mean, do you miss that, or is the setting not the important piece anymore? And it really is. You don't need. I love but I do love the beautiful water and the island.
Yeah, I don't think it matters that much. I mean, going to an African savanna, that's obviously very, very different. But you want to go to a place that's just got like muddy creeks and shit. Like you got this beautiful ocean and your HD, right? I mean, I'm okay with it as it is, as long as they keep having challenges in the water. I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. That's all the show we have for you right now. We're going to thank our loyal listeners for downloading each week and telling all of your friends about the Dome Patrol United Survivor podcast, Saints podcast, XFL podcast.
What's that?
Premier League podcast. Yeah, I know, right? We may never be able to do that again. All right. Anyway, follow us on Twitter at Dome Patrol US and at Dome Patrol UK. Like us on Facebook to watch live broadcasts. Like us on YouTube to watch live broadcasts. Follow us on Twitch. We'll start live broadcasting there once we get that going. And if you want to listen to us the old-fashioned way, that's Dome Patrol Podcast.
.com.
Say bye-bye, donkeys.
Bye-bye, fleur-de-lis donkeys.
The tribe has spoken.
The tribes.
Tribes.